using helicopters to hunt down their own people. Apart from the use of helicopters in Victoria to hunt down people on the beaches, no, not Brumby horses running wild this time, as usual in Australia, but hauling people out of houses where they dared to meet, their own houses, mind you, echoes of the Jewish hunt downs by the SS in Germany just before World War II, and making 300,000 for the police last weekend, in the same Victoria again. I was nonplussed at the article in the Daily Telegraph showing how the clever police used a helicopter to hunt down 3 young people who dared to meet on the top of a roof of a building to have a little party. Considering that helicopters use $6,000 a day, I find this a gross waste of taxpayers' money. The language of the article in the newspaper by the Daily Telegraph called the young people COVID-19 lawbreakers. Williams and Chamberlain, 2020, Daily Telegraph, 21st of April, who were on a high, the young people, denoting that they were evil little people breaking the law, this is the article, making it seem as if they had committed a heinous crime by drinking and smoking together. These are not murderers, these are young people doing normal things. The police heavy-handedness is despicable. Indeed, the language of the title, backing up the police, I guess, was Police Eye in the Sky Captures, reminds me of Big Brother, designed to make people feel the Big Brother is watching scenario, which makes us all rather nervous, similar to what a communist country would do to keep their people obedient and compliant, except we are a democracy, aren't we? I'm starting to hate that word now, compliant. It sounds so controlling, and the words like police eye and captures make you think nothing you do is hidden from the big eye in the sky. Queensland Police, it was also noted in the article, have now issued 1.5 million fines and tickets for the COVID-19 infringement notices, and a further 46 fine for breaches over a 24-hour period. This was a few days ago. Lucky them, making so much money for the Queensland government. Why do we need helicopters? This is not murder or hunting convicted felons. It is a total waste of the people's money, the taxpayers' money. However, considering there are not many taxpayers left since all the businesses were forced to close down, maybe it doesn't matter how much money the government wastes now. These new tracker apps that Scott Morrison is promoting, and he got the idea from Singapore, which is a very dictatorship place, government. Would you trust this man? The man that was promoting it on TV was Stuart Robert. Now, he's in charge of the NDIS and Centrelink, and he was the one that debunkled when everyone lined up for Centrelink outside, and he said, you can just go online, you don't need to line up. And then the young people said, well, actually, we can't go online, it's not working. Next to the helicopters is the tracker app, which Stuart Robert, after Scott Morrison's new ideas, yay, we can track you all, or else the restrictions won't be lifted. That was his appeal. Then Stuart Robert appeared on the news. He's a bald man with prominent ears. And on the news to promote this app. However, he looks more like a Nazi. He's a very hard-looking man, Nazi SS officer, than the face of someone you could trust at best. He reiterated that even if you put the app on your phone, they will not be tracking where you go, but just anyone you hang around with or meet anywhere you go. This does not ring true, as surely whoever you meet will be someone that can be shown, in other words, the area, town, house, meeting place. They'll always have tabs on us, and we'll no longer have a private life. The image of Stuart Robert, head of NDIS, who cut much funding off disability kids over recent years, and the Centrelink thing, where online applications for the unemployed who'd lost their jobs, thousands and thousands, standing outside Centrelink for 3 hours or all day. He showed little interest in those who are now jobless and stand in line for a whole day since he has a job, and his image and voice does not inspire character. He looks as trustworthy as the Gollum character from Tolkien from Lord of the Rings, who murmured, "My precious," who loved a ring more than anything else in this world, like some love money and power, same thing. Or could it be the tracker app is Stuart Robert's precious? Of note is the Centrelink, which is the social welfare here in Australia, workers' distress at Tuggerah, which is in the Central Coast, New South Wales. Also recently, after the hordes turned up to get unemployment help, all the people who'd lost their jobs, who I feel so sorry for, there were workers that tested positive in the unemployment centre, or the Centrelink centre. Hurst, the Guardian writer, 23rd of April 2020, said, as a result of all the contact with all the crowds who'd lost their jobs, many of them young people, these workers then got the virus, the workers in Centrelink. Warnings of concern about the Centrelink workers' safety and protection were sent up for 2 weeks before this to Stuart Robert. He ignored these, and then a worker tested positive, and now 5 more at Centrelink are positive at Tuggerah. However, the federal government insists that measures have been in place since February to protect workers at Centrelink. Obviously not so. More tales from the crypt. A letter is sent to Stuart Robert by Labour MP Emma McBride of concerns for protection for Centrelink workers that have to deal with the thousands who've turned up for help was largely ignored, which she sent that on the 5th of April, and was ignored by Stuart Roberts until the 18th of April 2020, when New South Wales Health Department found positive cases of the Centrelink workers. So then Stuart Robert was contacted, and his office said he had received McBride's letter but answered it in a broader general way that the protections had been enacted since February. This seems to be a one-off answer. Shorten, the opposition leader, notes that there was a pattern of Stuart Robert ignoring issues of a genuine community concern that came from Labour MPs, and that Robert's failure to intervene hopefully did not cause a much worse public health crisis for those at Centrelink Tuggerah. Again, would you trust this man and his information about a tracker app? Not only have young people lost their jobs, but they can no longer meet together more than two. So the distress of the jobless has increased, hence the increase in alcoholic consumption. And they were not allowed to do even that, the ones on the roof of the building who got captured by the police eye in the helicopter. For shame. The control and penalising of young for wanting some relief from stress is ridiculous. They're only human and coping with losing jobs and social lives. As someone said to me, these are the fun police. As long as they keep distancing themselves, shouldn't that be enough? Since the government is now willing to send children to schools to that, quote, safe environment, where kids could actually infect the teachers. Meanwhile, in New York, many teachers have died of COVID-19 when the children who are asymptomatic were not kept home. That was 27th of March in 2020 in the news. But they continued to go to school. Schools did not shut down some schools when they were told to. The principal of a school said the schools were no more unsafe than anywhere else because everywhere was unsafe in New York. One of the schools actually kept silent about those, this is in New York, testing positive in their staff and did not share it. So it spread to other staff. And then the schools were finally shut down before further spreads. Probably worried about lawsuits. Never mind about the teachers who got sick and died. Well, they did talk about how the children were affected by their teachers dying because, they missed their teachers. But now that's why the hypocrisy of this government here in Australia is palpable, and saying that children can go to school. And in fact, Scott Morrison over this weekend just said that children don't even need to self-distance. They can jump all over each other if they want. But it's only the teachers who could get infected. And how do teachers keep away from the children? Meanwhile, the hypocrisy of the government here in Australia is palpable, and the old people in old people's homes die because of infected workers who somehow are never checked. It almost seems as if they've been sent in there on purpose because it's always an infected worker who gets old people's homes infected. It hasn't come from any visitors, it's always from a worker. There's been discrimination against the old to make them feel a danger to society and that no one should visit them. Now they are letting visitors in if carefully protected. Why should they suffer and die alone anyway? In England, the government has been challenged on breach of human rights of the elderly by Blindman solicitors. Human rights threat to Hancock over caging of the aged, written by Bradshaw, 2020 April. Now, due to Blindman solicitors who challenged the government's lockdown as a violating of human rights, concessions were made for those with autism or disabilities to be allowed out to exercise more than once a day. I'm glad about that. And Hancock, Health Secretary for the UK, did an about-turn after the solicitors' challenge, where the solicitors were also saying that, they're like lambs to the slaughter, old people in old people's homes, and you're not even letting them get out to exercise. Therefore, because of this lack of trustworthiness in governments in general at this time, including Australia, if the government wants to put people on a tracker app on people's phones, then politicians should all have the same tracker app so that we can all know about them and their movements. And let's make that public. And we want to know where they have been, who they have been with, and what they have been doing, even what they might be saying. It's only fair. All the best, Andrea.